I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Mohan. Dr. Mohan is, I think, we have a close association with CanSupport since last many years, and I have seen Dr. Mohan since more than, I think, 10 to 15 years. He is in working with CanSupport, and he is developing and in charge of their academic programs. He himself was trained by Australia Flinders University. And then he has also visited many hospital in Singapore National Cancer Center, as well as the St. Christopher Hospice London. And he is, I think, I know, I have witnessed it, that he has developed home-based palliative care program at Amritsar, Bhatinda, Meerut, and various other parts of the countries. And we are looking forward, Dr. Mohan, to hear that how home-based palliative care should be developed, and what is the model of home-based palliative care of CanSupport organization. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. So go ahead, Dr. Mohan. Please.
Thank you, ma'am, for that introduction. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, this picture shows Madam Harmala Gupta, our founder president, receiving Public Health Champion Award from WHO in year 2017 on behalf of CanSupport. Next slide, please. Nisha ji, next slide. Yeah. Ours is a free home-based palliative care. We don't charge any money from patients, whether they are rich or poor. And since we are a charity, we depend on donations. Each home care team consists of a doctor, nurse, and a counselor, all trained in palliative care. We are in constant need of medications and other medical supplies. Every year, we dispense around 4 lakh tablets of oral morphine of different strengths. Next, please. We have worked in these various sites. SKIMS Kashmir has started palliative care after our training. Regional Cancer Center Bikaner, Patiala in Punjab, Regional Cancer Center Raipur. And recently, last 2 or 3 years, we have started our own centers in Amritsar, Bhatinda, and Meerut. Meerut is the latest, and next will be probably Sonipat. Punjab government proposes to engage CanSupport in setting palliative care in their all districts, but how will happen is, since a government venture, I don't know when it will take off. Next, please. This is something, a scene of a home-based palliative care. The team members mingle so much in the family that one cannot make who are the family members and who are the professional team. This lady in the picture you see was a case of CA pancreas. Her pain was managed well with oral morphine, and she died 5 days after this picture. Pain-free, all pending issues settled. You can see the family picture. Everyone is happy because the patient is comfortable. Next, please. Why home-based palliative care? Before I start how to go about it, we should know why it's important. You all will agree with me that family will participate actively in caregiving process. Patient symptoms will be managed holistically. Concerns of patient and family are addressed in a relaxed atmosphere. It gives comfort, privacy, and autonomy to the patient and the family. One big thing is home-based palliative care facilitates death at home. Most of the patients want to die at home, but it doesn't happen. Many of the patients all over the world still die in ICUs and hospitals. Home-based palliative care is cost-effective for patients and caregivers, but a cost attached to it. At CanSupport, we spend around 1,200 rupees per patient on an average, including everything. Next, please. So I'll be talking from my personal experience at Amritsar, Bhatinda, and Meerut. Every place is different, but few things are pretty common. Next, please. As and when you propose to start a palliative care at a place, you must know the population, region, culture, cancer statistics, what are the other players in the field and how they work about any palliative care already existing. You need to map the area. You must know their socioeconomic status, which helps you to plan palliative care in a new area. Next, please. See, as for CanSpot model, we look for a space where 5 team members could be accommodated. They could, there's an office, a field office. Initially, we would start with 3 members, one doctor, one nurse, and a counselor. When the patient number increases, we add on one nurse and one counselor more. Equipment, furniture, medicine. Morphine availability is a big issue. If you start a palliative care without morphine being available, you are in a big problem. And getting morphine in many places is not easy. I'll come to it when in the subsequent slides. Since CanSport supervises their teams for many months, we keep a room for our supervisory staff in headquarters. And the most important thing, which is money. If you're maintaining a team of 3 people, you need 20 lakhs per year. And if you have 2 teams, you need around 35 lakhs for a center of 2 teams. Without support of donors, no programs could take off. So money is important. Regular donors are very, very important. Next, please. I'm talking about morphine availability. Amritsar has 2 medical colleges. One is Government Medical College Amritsar, another is SGRD College. Both have oncology units, but there's no morphine in either of the medical colleges. There's one local chemist who provides morphine on DD7 on printed price, and morphine availability has many gaps. We persuaded, went around they call the drug controller as Joint Commissioner Drugs, goes to Chandigarh, been running around, and finally in October 2020, CanSport became an RMI at Amritsar and Bathinda both. Experience with UP drug controller was very, very bad. He gave us a RMI license, but just sanctioned 25 tablets of morphine for 1 year. Just 25 tablets. So we still to get lessons from him. Next, please. Patient pipeline is important. Your team should have sufficient patients who can be cared for. Amritsar had 2 medical colleges, which are both has more than 2 oncologists, so patient pipeline was not a problem. Bathinda has Advanced Cancer Institute and AIIMS Bathinda, which is coming up. Meerut has a government medical college and a private oncology hospital, the name of Aventis. Another important thing is engaging community. Once I visited Bathinda, the team said, Dr. Mohan, since we are new, no hospital is referring us patients. So I asked the doctor there, doctor, take me to the nearest village to your center, which was just 3 kilometers from there. We met Anganwadi and Sarpanch. You'll be surprised, we got 7 referrals in 1 hour's time because there were patients suffering who had no access to palliative care. So in one visit, in a village, we got 7 patients who badly needed palliative care, and 4 of them needed morphine for their pain. So engaging community is important, and that's why we are hiring a networking officer who not only networks with the hospitals and oncologists, also networks with communities. The village I went now the Sarpanch calls the doctor, we have another patient, please come and see him. So that is why networking is important. Next, please. These are our helpline numbers of Delhi, Amritsar, Bathinda, and Meerut. And we are free, and we are just a phone call away. Next, please. As and when you hire people, because we don't offer materials, we offer service. We should have a good doctor, good nurse, and good networking officer. Uh, Networking officer networks with, I've told you, with various hospitals and also with the community. So if we hire good people, our work will be good, our patient will be satisfied, and we get a good name. And of course, quality of services will be good. Next, please. Shortlisted doctors and nurses need to be interviewed by a group of people so that they are seen through different lenses and we choose good people. At the time of Corona, we even have to resort to telephonic interviews of people. Of course, face-to-face is the best. Next, please. See, as and when you choose people, because home care is not everybody's job. Every doctor, every healthcare professional will not be keen to do home care. I will strongly recommend they should be given the field of the work, and we must not hire those professionals who are not comfortable doing home care. I remember doctors who leave after half an hour. There are doctors who leave after half a day. There are doctors who will leave after 1 week. But people who stay for a year, they don't want to leave. They love this work. Next, please. Our doctor and nurses undergo 6 weeks training at Cancer Support, which includes theory training and practical training. And they spend 2 weeks with Dr. Shushma's and her department. And after the course, they undergo examination, which they have to score 50%. Counselors undergo 8 weeks of course, and they also have to score 50% marks in their post-course evaluation. Next, please. Once they have undergone training and cleared the exams, still they need hand-holding. First 3 months, we have an extensive hand-holding our field staff, and supervisory staffs are senior doctors, nurses, and counselors. For next 3 months, we do 7 days of monitoring per month, and thereafter telephone monitoring. And through Zoom, doctors and nurses and counselors, they meet once in 15 days to discuss their cases. And of course, emergencies cases can be discussed through phone or video call. We don't leave them alone. We monitor them carefully so that quality of care given to patient and caregivers is important. Next, please. Not that initial training, you train them and leave them alone. No, it doesn't happen. Every doctor, nurse, and a counselor undergoes 40 full days of training sessions per year. They're full day session, morning till evening. Apart from cancer palliative care, we are into pediatric palliative care, and we currently having undergoing training for geriatric palliative care from a department for geriatrics, AIIMS Delhi. Our doctors frequently discuss cases with Professor Shubham Bhatnagar and her team over the phone. We must ensure that our doctors and nurses are expert in using subcutaneous medication, which Dr. Stanley McCartan calls family drivers. If our doctor and nurses know well about this mode of caring, I think many hospital admission could be avoided and patient could comfortably die at home. I always tell them, if doctor and nurses don't know how to use subcutaneous medication, they are not doing a good home care. And of course, we have a general club of doctors. We frequently discuss our cases and articles and learning from those articles to improve our services, because there's a lot of room of improvement, and it's a constant process and it carries on regularly. Even during lockdown, we were meeting over the Zoom discussing articles. Next, please. You have trained people, you have mentored them, but how to ensure quality with the work which is done? We care for 2,700 patients in different parts of India. How to ensure the quality is given is good? We consider in palliative care that patient has and his or her family is the boss in palliative care. Within 24 hours of the visit, the family is called for their feedback. If the feedback is negative and corrective measures need to be taken, they are taken. And we are our field support teams in different areas, which are the senior doctor, nurse, and counselor on board. They also visit the field and check the quality to ensure that good quality of services provided. We are free doesn't mean any quality will be accepted. The quality of care is poor. We work very harshly on that, and we ensure that a minimum standard of quality is ensured. Next, please. Our doctors are available to patients round the clock over the phone. If a doctor doesn't pick the patient's phone, we take it very seriously, because we at CanSport believe half a minute talk with the patient out of office hours can make a big difference. It could be just adjusting a morphine dose, stopping a medication, or starting a new medication over the phone. Because first visit is usually more than 1 hour, and doctors can always handle their patients on mostly on phones. Next, please. We have a special session on opioids, standard operating procedures for doctor nurses. They are taught about the NDPS Act, and after training, they sign an undertaking that I've understood and I know my legal liabilities so far as the Act is concerned. This is to ensure that every tablet of morphine, though we dispense around 4 lakh tablets per year, every tablet of morphine needs to be accounted for. This must be made very clear to the medical staff. Next, please. Morphine records are of the field units are checked periodically. Daily, when the doctors are new, we daily monitor their Form 3 and 3H. And during training of doctors, they are trained how to send their quarterly morphine consumption to the drug controller. Initially, we guide them and gradually they take off. Because we have a fixed date, 15th of a particular month, say Jan, April, September, for yeah. I was talking that we check our morphine records regularly. When the doctors are new, we check their Form 3 and 3H daily, or sometime over the Zoom, sometime over a video call. And we train them how to send their regular morphine reports to the drug controllers, which is very crucial because what we consume this year is related to what we ask for next year, so far as the morphine amount is concerned. Next, please. Next. Yes, we keep our records on case sheets, and by 31st March, all our records will be online. So all authorized persons will be able to have access to records from anywhere. Next, please. We have volunteers that can support, but they are not directly into home care. They run a daycare for pediatric age group on Mondays, for adolescents on Wednesdays, and for adults on Fridays. They organize an annual event which is called Walk for Life, and I'll request all of you to register for it in the first week of Feb. They run a peer support group and help us in raising funds. They connect us to people who can support our services economically. Next, please. It may appear easy, but there are big challenges in setting up home-based palliative care. Hiring, training, retaining doctors is a big challenge. Morphine availability is a big issue. In Punjab, we've been trying almost for 2 years to get morphine license, and thanks to the Chief Secretary of Punjab, Madam Binny Mahajan, who came to our help, and we could get morphine licenses for Amritsar and Bathinda. UP still we are struggling. And quality assurance at the time of COVID was a challenge because we had to be very selective in visiting our patients, and of course, keeping our staff safe was always a challenge. So far, touch wood, everything is okay. Our services never stopped during COVID time. We still, our training, our patient care carried on at the time of COVID. Next, please. This is a study from Can Support where the authors have compared palliative care of Can Support with other places, and they found out that our care is cost effective, so the patients are concerned it can be replicated by other people, especially in low income countries. And our model is very close to Singapore home-based palliative care. Next, please. This is another study which from Australia, which talks about the role of GPs in palliative care. They are able to provide effective, efficient care for home-based palliative patients. Expert palliative care when required, such patients could be referred to experts. Next, please. This study is from Malaysia in the year 2008. Home-based palliative care is generally the best way of achieving quality care and coverage in countries with strong family support and poor health infrastructure. We are the ideal for so with this concern. Home-based palliative care is best of palliative care not only for cancer patients, even for the biggest client of palliative care, that is old age. I think the tsunami of old people is coming, and I think home-based palliative care can do wonders so far as the caring of the old people is concerned. Next, please. This study is from International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health in 2020. They say home-based palliative care facilitates patients to be taken care of at home and die at home. Most our patients want to die at home. We carried out a study in Can Support for 6 years back, where our 91% patient died at home, which is a good number, and I think we should even add on to this number. Every patient who dies in ICU or hospital needs to be analyzed what went wrong with home care. If we at end of life, we know how to use subcutaneous medications. Most of the patient could be cared at home and they would die at home. Next, please. This is a picture of Amritsar patient being seen at home by our Can Support doctor and the nurse. And we ensure that we hire people who know the local language. Working Punjab and you don't know Punjabi, probably things will be difficult. Next, please. This is another patient of CA breast at Amritsar when nurse is teaching exercise to the patient. Next, please. This one is from Bathinda. Next. This is another typical Bathinda villages where you see a big compound and doctor and nurses interacting with patient and the family. Next. This is Meerut, wound dressing being done. And we see in red a supervisor from Delhi visiting on a routine visit to Meerut. Next. This is another picture at Meerut. Next, please. Thank you. That's all I have to say. This is a mail ID. I will be available for any clarification. Thank you, Nisha ji. Any questions, comments, or remarks?
Yeah, Dr. Mohan, thank you. Uh,
Thank you.
there are questions. Shall we go to the questions?
Yes, please, please.
Please go ahead. Question with the questions.
So, Dr. Mohan, the question is, so when patients in home care, they need some kind of emergency medical services, which cannot be provided at home or
Mhm.
something like that. How is care being coordinated for such cases?
You see, currently we are analyzing this. Every doctor every weekend will write how many calls he got and how many of them he could do on phone. We spend a lot of time with our patients. Say, first visit is 1.5 hours. We thoroughly see and do some sort of advanced care planning. And patients who are little difficult to manage, who have, who are unstable, they are high priority patients. So far, our analysis says that 99% can manage our patient on phone because they are mostly are high priority patients. And so far as rarely one odd case will need visit on a weekend, which at currently we're not doing it. We manage our patient over the phone and it works well. We are still doing that study. Every week we say how many cases were phones came and how many could be managed on phone. Majority could have been we are able to manage on phone.
Okay, thank you. So, if someone has a pain crisis, suppose which is not controlled with oral tablets like morphine, then so they might need some injectables, right? So, how are those cases being covered? Do you ask
Would
the
you,
local doctor to come and
uh, Dr. Arun, what we do is if the patient's on morphine, he's our high priority patient. And first day, even they talk to us every 2 hourly about the pain. We leave them little comfortable when they are pain free. And I remember a case where the patient has oral cancer. The tongue was so big that tablet couldn't go orally. We did directly. We an emergency measure. We advised the patient to take the same dose rectally. It worked wonder. After 1 hour, the phone comes. Doctor, I am pain free. You see, got to know your patient so well that if the phone call calls, if a doctor asks, who are you? I think he does know his patients well.
I think question is Dr. Mohan that if patient cannot take oral, then what should you do? What are you doing? So I think you are giving subcutaneous morphine. This is what Arun, the question was.
yeah, I was thinking, so what is that if someone needs some kind of intervention at home, which cannot be done uh, by by caregivers, and if that is an emergency, so over the phone you can tell them to do certain things, right? But if something that cannot be done by the caregivers, how are people managing with that?
You see, we such patients who probably will not accept orally, we always put a subcutaneous butterfly. And even in my practice, I tell the family to put it in front of me so that at weekend, if this comes out, they're able to put it again.
Okay, I
I
understand.
think we must, if we are doing home care, we must learn supplements medication thoroughly.
Hmm, sure. So thank you, sir. Next question is, do doctors take turns in being available on the phone for 24 hours all throughout the
No,
year?
no,
No.
no. They do their look after their own patients mostly. I can look after a patient best if I know him.
Okay.
But in
And
emergency, of course, if a doctor has gone abroad or a doctor is sick, of course, other doctors take on.
okay. And nurses, are they also available on the phone?
Yeah, they're also available.
Okay. Sir, what is the average cost that per patient incurs by CAN support that you mentioned? What is the average cost per patient
It's around 1200 plus.
per month? Is it?
Yeah, per visit, Dr. Goshal, per
Okay.
visit. We prioritize our patients to three categories: high priority, middle priority, low priority, and then on call. High priority visits patients are visited once or twice a week. Middle priority once a fortnight, low priority once a month. And on call are people who are probably could be discharged soon. They don't need our services much. So not that every patient should be visited every week. Some patients are visited once a month also, depending on how well they are doing. And we record our symptoms on developmental symptom assessment chart to ensure that all peaks are addressed promptly and effectively. This one chart tells us how the team is faring. Everything is monitored. Whatever is not monitored is not done. That can support.
Okay, thank you.
Come on, you have told 1200 per visit. So this cost includes only the medication cost or everything?
No, madam, everything, madam.
Everything. Okay.
Madam, it's everything.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. A question from Sri Nagesh Simha. Dr. Mohan, can you share any of the negative feedbacks if you're okay about it?
Yeah, I will. Some people want a nurse to be stationed with them. Some people want a vehicle from us to be taken to hospital. Some people want onco medications. During the first visit, when we go, we tell them what we do and also what we can't do. We don't do everything.
Okay. Thank you. The next question is, you mentioned about your daycare setup.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us what kind of care is being provided in those daycare setups?
Daycare is, the patients who come, we run a OPD also there in the daycare. Patient needing to see a doctor there, they can see the doctor there. And there are certain sports and certain games and certain volunteers from colleges come and talk to patients depending on their age. They get a meal also. And somebody who needs blood are volunteers because in pediatric daycares, we mainly get ALL patients, many of them blood for their treatment. Our volunteers help them to get that blood also. And any patient who needs home care, they're also referred to home care also. That is what is done. Even people are taught exercises, ladies are taught small games. It's a sort of a change for those people. Otherwise, many of them are staying in Dharamshala, every time focused on disease. Sort of a care is done. One of the airlines took our children on an air flight just to give them a change. So many colleges, many people do internship there and come and interact with patients, write their case histories, discuss with them, and sort of help is done.
Thank you. So a lot of congratulatory messages on the chat about your home care services, and the field support services is an excellent support for quality control that has also been mentioned. One question is there that if someone needs a blood transfusion and the person is at their home, how will you manage? What do you advise to those patients?
I think in palliative care, usually blood transfusion is not required. If the patient is under treatment, they go to their primary physician for it. We don't do at home.
Okay, thank you. So one question is about morphine provision. If someone needs morphine at home, do they get it from you during their home visits? How do you do that?
Yes, we issue morphine to patients at home. We give for usually week to 10 days. It's free of cost. Whether rich or poor, we don't charge anything for the morphine.
Okay, so do you stock the morphine with you in those cases?
Yeah, I told you we dispense 4 lakh tablets of oral morphine of different strengths, and we are never short of morphine at Can Support.
Okay. Thank you. A lot of questions, sir. I'm sorry, there are a few more questions.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
I would request the audience to pose more questions.
There are many questions. So
yeah, please.
Thank you. So, sir, if someone needs a procedure at home, say nasogastric tube or ascites tapping, how will you proceed for that?
We do that. Our doctor, nurses, most of them are able to do that. We do at home.
One more question from Dr. Mallika. Sir, can you explain a little more in details about how do you identify and map out those needy patients?
You see, our case is pretty comprehensive, which talks about their social, we have the Kupuswamy scale, we uh, divide our families into lower and upper status, middle status, lower status, or destitutes. So that is done on the very first visit. Some families are given ration support also. Those who are very poor, who can't afford, we support them, even give them ration support and all medications. Richer people, we prescribe medicine except morphine. People are very rich. If we're going to get a Kalash, we don't give them medication except morphine. The rest we prescribe for them. We
And
know
you,
from day one.
yeah, that's thank you. And how do you identify? Are patients referred to you, or is there any other system apart from referral process?
We have 3-4 ways of getting. One is our networking officer goes to a bigger hospital, like the one regularly goes to Dr. Shushma's OPD, referral from AIMS, referral through our helpline. We have a helpline, not many patients through helpline. And when you work for a long time, even word of mouth. In Amritsar, I saw 2 new patients, asked them how you came to know of us. He says, your placard was sent, a picture was sent to me by a friend of mine. So these are the ways, and word of mouth. I often get calls from people, ask them from where you're calling. He says, I'm in a hospital queue. The person who is in front of me, you visit their home, please visit mine also. So this is how it comes. I think word of mouth, helpline are important sources. And of course, we get referral from almost all hospitals.
Okay, thank you. Sushma madam wants to share her experience about home care. Please go ahead.
Arun, first go ahead with the questions. There are so many questions, and then at last I just wanted to share my experience of cancer support of 2 decades. Please take all the questions, please.
Next question, Dr. Mohan, is about death certificate. So a patient under your care dies at home. How will the patient procure a death certificate?
I thank the person who's asked this question. This is, you see, if the patient dies in front of me or say any doctor of ours, we immediately issue a death certificate to him or her. If a patient dies when we are away, we tell them to contact their doctor to whom they go for the routine medications. A doctor has to see the patient, certify death, and then issue death certificate. Hope I'm clear.
Yeah, and is that doctor mostly a family physician or?
Yeah, usually a family physician. If he has an issue, he can talk to us and we explain him what he has to do.
And so routinely, do you contact the family physician just for out of our case? How is that coordinated?
Yeah, sometimes we do. The patient is far away at some bordering area where travel time is 2 hours. We do connect to their family physician, teach them, and then through that telephonic call is through the physician to the family. And that is why we engage people, and he also becomes a point of referral for us in future. Engaging them is important. Not everywhere, not be possible. Wherever we think logistically different to reach the patients, we do engage. We make it a point, we engage them.
Okay. So one question is about, you mentioned about pediatric adolescent palliative care. So the question is about what is the experience about counseling to families of patients or children who are suffering from incurable cancer at home, and how is this thing kind of taken care of?
I thank the person who's asked this question, and I think Cancer Support is an NGO which has every team has a counselor. I think it strengthens our work. So much so I tell my counselors, you got to write in your case sheet, you are being there, how did it help the patient? See, there are often issues like why me? Why my child is suffering? Ye kaisa Bhagwan hai? People say, no, have faith in God, everything will be all right, when everything will not be all right. People do ask questions. why these things happen to me, or things issue like uh, how much time is left. There's other things people ask about it. Why my child suffering? And of course, there's at times in certain families, family dynamics go haywire when a disease like cancer strikes. So setting those things, breaking bad news is also a domain of the counselors. Preparing the family for the impending death is important. Even with, after the death, palliative care doesn't stop. We keep on meeting these patients, even our families, even after death of the patient, and even identify people who going to have complex bereavement problems. See, many people need once a while people need referral to healthcare professional also, which is also a uh, domain of the counselors. Even after the care stops, patient has died, bereavement has taken place, we again visit the families for a feedback, so that now they are out of their grief. They give us feedback, what went well, what could have been done better to improve our services, because improving services is a constant process which must not stop even during the lockdown.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Mohan, next question is about the burnout that the doctors and staff might face while working in palliative care. How is Cancer Support providing staff care, and how are doctors also practicing self-care in Cancer Support?
Uh, I did a study about 2 years back at Cancer Support, and I'm happy to tell you that most of our doctors enjoyed their work. It was an anonymous study, and of course, stress was most in counselors, not least in doctors, a little more in nurses, and much more in counselors, because counselors go deep and try to get into those issues. We do pretty well, but still, of course, uh, uh, I also go on leave, and a reason for leave is self-care. And we have psychiatrists on board who comes, and we have group meetings with discussions, uh, and of course, to ensure we always uh, we in one of the studies where I asked what is the reason for how you distress yourselves, because most of our nurses are Christians. I thought they'll say prayer. They say teamwork. If you have a good teamwork, it's not only gives are able to give good quality of care, you look after yourself well also. To us, team is a very strong forum. Deep group of 5 people, one doctor, 2 nurses, and 2 counselors, a very strong group. If they work as a good team, not only the quality of care will be very good, their own self-care will be good. About your burnout, first to know is your team member, not your CEO or your head of palliative care services.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question is,
We,
yeah,
Dr. Kushal, I missed one thing. We go on picnics also sometime.
I'm sure people do enjoy that.
Yeah, they enjoy it very much.
Right, sir. So I think there's a lot of question about funding. So let us start. So the people are asking, how do you manage to get such huge amount of funding that you are providing excellent quality care services? How do you reach out to funders, or what is the source of fund?
You asked a difficult question from a wrong person. I'll answer. I'll try to
No,
answer.
I mean, if it is okay to answer, if
No,
you
no,
think,
I'll answer. I know quite a bit of it.
okay.
Most of it comes from corporate. The funds are dried down during COVID time, and we are struggling for it. Some families also whose patient have been cared for us, they adopt our centers. Somebody gives us money for morphine. Somebody gives us rent for a center, and we got many donors, and they keep on changing. Big donors, small donors, and we have to work on donation. Of course, corporate is the biggest source of money for us, and we constantly struggle for money.
And so is the service free for people across socioeconomic categories, even for the high,
Everyone,
everyone?
even the rich ones, we encourage our patient to ask for us from where the money comes. That also helps us to, we keep nothing sort of hidden, and which results in some checks coming from some families also at times.
Okay, there is a question about non-cancer. Is CancerPort providing care for cancer, or what do the people with non-cancer?
Yes, we do register them. We do register them. Very old bedridden patients,
Yeah.
patients with neurological illnesses, we do admit them. But big chunk is cancer so far.
Okay.
And once we start admitting old age people, I think we'll be looking after people for a very, very long time.
Okay, that is
We
wonderful because
see all.
I think there's a lot of need for non-cancer as well, along with
Yeah.
cancer.
Yes,
That
yes.
is very helpful to know that.
Yeah.
There is a question about salary of doctors and nurses, how they are calculated. If you are okay with it, you can tell us. If you are not okay, then I would request the person to please email you. It is up to you, sir. How it is
You
calculated.
see, salary goes as per the market practices, because for a person who does this job, it is he or she is not doing a charity; she is doing a job. So it is sort of directed by what is happening outside.
Okay. Okay. And there are so many congratulatory messages to you and CancerPort and all the doctors and
Thank
nurses who
you.
are working with CancerPort as well. I will take one last question before Dr. Sushma kind of shares the experience. So the last question is, sir, sometimes you get a lot of late referrals, like patient is dying. How do you manage those cases?
Please repeat your question.
Sometimes we get a lot of late references, like patients are dying at the end of life. How do you manage such cases?
You see, such patient can't get best out of palliative care. People are just dying on the deathbed. This often happens from corporate hospital. We get referrals like this. Patient could be dying after a day or two. We do reach them. Whatever best we can do, of course, we can't do. We can't provide ideal palliative to such people. We always, one of the questions when I go for introductory workshops to these hospitals is, when the palliative care should start. So I want to hear from oncology, sir, at the diagnosis. And there are claps for this answer. We are trying to change it. Or of course, ideally, palliative care should start the diagnosis. It doesn't happen most of the times. We have still to fight this war. If people have to get best out of palliative care, they should be with the team at the diagnosis or as early as possible.
Yes, and I think CancerPort does a lot of meetings, lot of seminars where you kind of reach out to the oncologists about this message that refer patients early and not at the end of the life, right?
Yes.
So that is always done. Okay, I think thank you very much. There are no more questions at this moment. And if Dr. Sushma Bhatnagar is there, please can you share your experience now?
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, first of all.
Thank you.
There are a lot of questions. I know Arun has just skipped a lot of questions, but I know it is going to be there because it is so natural that how organization like this is working free of cost all over Delhi, NCR, Amritsar, Bathinda, Meerut. And so I just want to share my this thing because I have witnessed CancerPort right from first. Only they used to have one team, one doctor, one nurse, one counselor, and we have done first course together after 16 years back. We did one first foundation course. That time there was only one team, and now I think they have more than 40 teams, and more than 40 teams means every team has a doctor, nurse, and a counselor, and they are also expanding in Amritsar, Bathinda, and other places, and they are trying. I know that this is again, it's not a coverage of for whole of India, but I think this model can be replicated. And whenever I ask their CEO, they always struggle with the funds too, because it's not easy to pay salary to all the doctors, nurses, and counselor. But still, there are people those who are many of us who are practicing, if their patient gets good palliative care, they want to donate money, and I think this is the way they must be getting money. Corporate, definitely they have a lot of funds for this kind of activity, they get money. But the best part is that all their doctors and nurses, I think, they remain always available for our patients, because whenever there is always a person who is liaising between CanSupport and our OPD, that always available in our OPDs. So if any patient who is requiring home care, we always give them their address. If in emergency somebody is asking and I think that this patient needs home care, I immediately call the in charge of home care services, Dr. Reena. Our doctors, our faculty members, if they think that this patient needs palliative care at home, there is a telephone number in the OPD. They give the telephone number and they call that this patient needs home care. And the experience of all those patients, those who have been received palliative care from CanSupport at home, I am yet to see any negative. Dr. Nagesh was asking that negative feedback, but I have not received any negative feedback from anyone about CanSupport team services. Maybe there are few family members, they think that because it is free of cost, so that is nothing. Because people have a tendency, if they pay, they think that this is a good service. But when they realize that this is a good service without money, I think they really appreciate. There are people, those who don't like they don't like that any team of CanSupport is coming to their home, so that they have a stigma that the patient is suffering. So this kind of also happens, and they don't like to call team at home. But most of the patient, those who are we are referring from OPD, I think CanSupport team is giving fantastic services to them. And all their patients, not only those we have referred, but all those patients, those CanSupport team is taking care. I think they are connected with us, and immediately if any patient needs some kind of a hospitalization, they call any of our faculty member. I think we have a lot of good contacts on telephone. They call us immediately, and if we think that this patient needs hospitalization and should be taken care at home, in the hospital, we immediately admit that patient and take care. We are ready to shoulder the means like we are ready to share our responsibility with CanSupport. So this model with CanSupport and mm, uh, of home care model, I think it's a fantastic model. And I really congratulate the whole team. And somehow I'm really surprised that the way the doctor and nurses, they do and they counsel their patient. Because I share one of my experience. We have 2-3 more minutes. That one of a big high court judge, my mother was admitted, and my mother was there in the at home, and one of my residents joined RML hospital, and this doctor was working in RML hospital, and she just discussed with the resident that after she became faculty at RML, and she said that my mother is having these problem, and we are really struggling to have a good doctor. And she immediately called me, and I connected them with home care team. And the way I was just thinking right now that I should have called her, the way she described the services of home care team of CanSupport, I think she said that a lot of these kind of organizations should be there all over India. So I understand that there must be many organizations, those who must be providing such kind of activities all over India. It is not only CanSupport, and in various parts of the country nowadays there are many organizations providing home care services. And we with Savita, we are working on this aspect also, because next agenda of ours will be that how to standardize the services of home care team all over India. How we can take the help of take the help of the model of CanSupport and other models, and we can standardize the home care services all over India so that the National Palliative Care Program can go hands in hands with the standardized model of home care team. So this will be our next agenda. As soon as we will finish these agendas, which is working right now, we have taken a lot of agenda, but definitely very soon we will take up this, that how we can standardize the home care services all over India. So, and how we can channel all home care services, those who are working all over country, because it's not only CanSupport. CanSupport is the oldest organization and providing fantastic services, but there are multiple organizations providing home care team. How we can bring them on a single platform so that people, those who are suffering all over the country, they can get the immediate contact number of that area, that this is the organization who is providing home care, and this will be a uniform services. We are trying that this will be, these services will be uniform throughout the country. So thank you, Dr. Mohan, and thank you, Dr. Nagesh, Dr. Stanley, and all senior people, those who are there, Nandini, they have asked important questions, and many people, Dr. Malika, and I think appreciation of all the CanSupport team. And Dr. Mohan, please convey this to whole of your team from our side, that this was well appreciated, and it is a national platform, whatever it is, although 120 or 130 people have attended maximum, but it's okay, 130 people, they have listened that what are the services you are providing. And I really want to thank even my team members, those who are giving training, constant training. Is like whole of our team of all the faculty members of AIIMS, they provide training to CanSupport doctors and nurses, plus their 6 weeks program. They come and they are taking lectures, they are giving practical training to all those people, and this is a vice versa, and mutual respect and mutual understanding between us and CanSupport. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sushma, for support and guidance. We always depend on you, and you have never failed us. Thank you so much.